Ever tried quilting before you applique? Let's do it. Hi, I'm Monica Poole. Welcome to the Pattern Poole studio. Hi, I'm Monica Poole. Welcome to the Pattern Poole studio. If you've been watching my YouTube series on Quilt-as-you-go, you'll know that that's the only way that I like to make a quilt. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to make an applique Quilt-as-you-go quilt using some really cool techniques. The quilt behind me is called the Lovebirds quilt. This quilt was made in two separate panels and I quilted them first before applying the applique, and I've also applied some roses which were cut out from printed fabric. This technique is called broderie perse, and I'm also going to be showing you how to do this technique also today. To show you how all this is done, I'm going to use our tiger applique pattern, which was designed by my daughter, Laura Poole. We're actually going to quilt our piece first before we apply the applique. This is quite a detailed design, so I thought it was a really good idea to trace the design placement onto our background fabric first of all. So just by popping it underneath and tracing that with a fabric marker, that can be easily erased from the fabric. Now the next thing we're going to do is mark some quilting lines. We're not actually going to sew straight lines, we're going to sew twisty quilting lines, and I'm going to mark lines spaced 2 inches apart. So my background piece of fabric that I'm working on is 20 by 24 inches. I'm going to mark lines spaced 2 inches apart using my sew line marking pencil, because I know that this can easily erase from the fabric. So just using the lines on my ruler and marking 2-inch spaces. Now that my lines have been marked, I'm going to layer together my top layer with some batting and backing fabric. This time I'm actually using a fusible batting, so I'm just going to iron my layers together. You could use either basting spray, I always say just a really light application of basting spray, or you could hold your layers together with safety pins. And just for some reinforcement, I'm just going to pop a few pins in around the edge. We're going to do a lot of stitching on this piece, so I'm using quite a busy pattern background fabric, and that way if you have any tension problems, it's not going to be so noticeable. Hopefully we won't have tension problems though. I'm going to use a green thread for my twisty quilting, and I've got a green thread in the bobbin also. I have my size 80 quilting needle and my walking foot attached, and this is how we do the twisty quilting. So I want my quilting to start and finish 2 inches away from all edges. That's in case I want to join it onto another section using the traditional technique. So I've just marked a 2-inch line going across the top. When we do our quilting, we want to start at that 2-inch line, which is down from the top, and I'm going to bring the bobbin thread up to the top, so foot down and then needle down, needle up, bringing my bobbin thread first of all. And then the needle down, and I'm going to start with a small stitch length. I like to be at 0.4. And I will do 7 small stitches, and then back to my normal stitch length of 3, and I'm just going to sew backwards and forwards across the line. Roll your work up if you feel that you need to do that to help it go through your machine nicely. And aim to finish 2 inches away from the bottom edge. So I've marked a line 2 inches up from the bottom. I'm going to stop there, and now I'm going to spin around and I'm going to sew back, crossing over the line again with wavy lines. Finishing back at my starting point with my small stitches.
Okay,
Okay, so I always find that that's a nice secure way, but you can thread your threads through the layers of your quilt if you like, but I'm happy just to snip those off. So I'm just going to continue sewing those wavy quilting lines. I'm working from the center out. If, say for instance, when you quilt and you turn and come back the other way and your fabric is twisting, only do your twisty quilting lines in the one direction. Here are my twisty quilting lines, finishing 2 inches all the way around the edge, and this is what it looks like from behind. Now it's time to apply the applique shapes. I've traced them all onto fusible web and I'm ready to start applying them. And here's our beautiful pink tiger. So at this stage you could head to the sewing machine and start stitching. You could stitch with just a tiny little zigzag or a blanket stitch. That's going to be okay because you've got your busy backing fabric, so it won't be too noticeable on the back of your work. I'm going to use free motion sketchy applique, but just before I start, I'm going to embellish my tiger with some flowers. So I found this great fabric. It's got some really fantastic flowers that I can easily cut out around the edge. So it's just a matter of finding a fabric that is going to suit your fabrics and your colors. This one here would also make quite a good rose fabric. But I'm going to use this one. So to do this, I have already started by ironing a piece of fusible web onto the back of my flowers, and I'm going to start cutting them out and positioning them around the edge of my tiger. And here we are with our cutout flowers around the edge. So I'm at the machine and I am ready to sew. I'm threaded up for free motion stitching. I have pink thread on the top. I've also put pink thread on the bobbin. I think it's okay to change thread color on the back of your quilt. That's not a problem with that at all. I have a size 80 quilting needle and my free motion foot on, and I'm ready to start stitching. If you want to know more about free motion sketchy applique, check out my Quilt-as-you-go free motion stitching. It's got lots of great hints and tips for you to be able to build up your skills to be able to sew free motion applique with confidence. So here's my tiger all stitched. I didn't actually add the fabric claws, I just stitched those with the free motion stitching, just going backwards and forwards. I've got his eye on. Now his eye I just stitched around just with my normal foot because it is tricky when you're sewing really tiny pieces. And I'll do the same to the black part of his eye. I'll just have my normal foot on and I'm just going to straight stitch around just with a really small stitch length. I've started having a little bit of fun with the flowers, with the cutout flowers, and I'll head to the machine now and I'll show you how I'm going to sew one of the flowers here. And then I added some leaves. I just thought it needed just a little bit more to the design, and so I'll show you how I stitch the leaves also. So have fun with your cutout flowers and just stitch around following the actual design of the flower itself. But what I do on the outside edge, it is a really good idea to stitch around, 2 or 3 times just to make sure that our outside edges are secure. So I did this wavy quilting around the edge on some of them. So I'm just going to stitch away and you can just have a watch and see how I tackle stitching one of these flowers. And this is how I sew the leaves. So here's my finished piece. Definitely quilting first means that you don't end up having all these blank spaces behind the applique that you then have to come back and quilt. Also means that you don't have to worry about quilting around all these intricate pieces. It also holds your base nice and flat and stable while you're actually doing all of the applique. So it's quite a fun technique. Now, if you wanted to make a quilt-as-you-go quilt using this technique, what you would do is just divide your quilt up into long panels, so the length that you want them to be. Just do this twisty quilting, apply your applique, and then when you go to join them together, you can join them using what I call, quilt-as-you-go without sashing. So I do have a whole video on that you can check out, and we'll put the link in the description so you can see. But basically, that's where you join the 3 layers of the quilt separately. So you've got your top, batting, and backing, which all gets joined together separately. Now, a couple of things. I accidentally used steamer seam to do this project, whereas I should have actually used light steamer seam. So that was a little bit of a problem, because when I was stitching through all of the layers, it made the pieces quite thick. It was manageable, but it was a little bit difficult to do. Also, this is what it looks like on the back. I wish that I did actually have a backing fabric that had pink thread in it, but that's something that you kind of work these things out as you're going along. So had my backing fabric been quite busy and had pink, then this pink stitching wouldn't stand out as much, but it doesn't actually look too bad at all. So all in all, I'm quite happy with my project, my pink tiger that I quilted first, applied the applique, and also did these fun broderie purse flowers. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you like learning with me, why not subscribe to our YouTube channel? We're posting a new video every week, and if you click the notification button, you won't miss out on any of our tutorials. So thanks for watching, bye!